Hey, how's it going, Eric at SoCal Cigars? So let's continue our series of Back to the Basics. Last time we talked about cutting your cigar. This time we're going to talk about lighting your cigar. Again, just like trimming, lighting seems like it's a pretty simple thing, but there's definitely some things you can think about to make a better decision on how you're going to approach lighting your cigar. So I'm going to talk about what I kind of consider the main 3 ways you're going to approach lighting a cigar. Let's start old school. That's right, matches. Still available, still out there, you can still buy them. But there's a few things to think about when you're using matches. One is the environment you're in. So if you're in a day where it's a little breezy or it's very windy, matches are kind of going to be a challenge unless you're indoors. So really think about the environment you're going to be smoking in when you're thinking about what am I going to bring with me to light my cigar. If you're going to bring matches, I would probably always suggest having a lighter as a backup. Other thing we want to think about is the type of match. So if you notice, this match is wood, which is what we want, because little like match books are a lot of times it's just like cardboard. So we want wood. We also want a match that's longer. If you notice, this is a much longer than normal match. That's to give us the time we need to light a cigar, and maybe even a secondary light to keep it away from our fingers, right? So what's the downside to this? Well, this is the sulfur. So this compound that ignites the wood is based with sulfur in it, and you don't want to draw that into your cigar because it could impart a negative flavor to it. So what you want to do is when you're going to use a book of matches like this, it's going to have a striker on it that adds friction to your sulfur compound. You're going to strike it, and you'll notice when you strike it, it's going to make this big flare up. Let that happen, because that's the initial combustion of this compound. Let that take place so it gets back down to a normal flame, and then let it burn into the wood a little bit. What we're trying to do is let this sulfur compound burn away, get far enough away from that end of that match to where we're back into just the wood that we really want to only use to light our cigar. Because that way we're not going to drag a bunch of nasty flavors into our cigar. So again, matches are great, a great kind of old school way to do things. I've no issues with doing it. Just make sure you know your environment and make sure you burn past this nasty part so you're not bringing that into your cigar. The other thing is, I would always hold it at like a 45-degree angle. That's just like a little tip I'll give you, because that way the flame is going up this way. If you hold it this way or even down this way, it's going to burn quicker. Okay, so just kind of hold it at a 45-degree angle so it just makes a really nice flame. You're able to light your cigar. It's going to burn down a little bit. So even if you have to do a secondary light, you still have time to go do that as well before you need to put it out and drop it. Okay, so that's kind of where we are with matches. Excuse me. The next thing I'd talk about is what we kind of call now a soft flame lighter. So you might remember like the days of carrying a Zippo lighter. A couple things to talk about that. One is, if you use a Zippo lighter, you know very well that odor. A lot of us like that odor, but we don't necessarily like that odor going into our cigar. So keep in mind the type of fuel that a Zippo lighter is using has a flavor to it, has a smell to it that could impart into your cigar, and that would be negative. The other thing about those is the way they're designed. They're not like current lighters that have like a plastic tank in them that are like completely airtight. Excuse me. Allergies are going crazy. The Zippo lighters really just have metal that sleeve into another piece of metal, so there's all sorts of air gaps in it. And you may have experienced this as well in the past. I'll grab my Zippo, I know I've got fluid in it, and I go to light it, and sure enough, the thing's dry. It's because it all evaporated away. Okay, so there's a lot of tending to those lighters where you got to keep refilling them, and it's kind of irritating. And again, the possibility of getting that flavor into your cigar is something I would just rather avoid. So there is an alternative, a more modern take on that. You can buy a soft flame lighter that is using the same fuel, if you notice the fuel inlet there, as a normal torch lighter. So like a triple filter butane that we're like using for our premium, lighters using a premium fuel. That's what this does as well, but it's a soft flame. So if you look, it's still a soft flame lighter, but it's using the fuel that we already all have on hand. So now you don't have to, 1, store 2 different kinds of fuel, but 2, it's going to burn clean and it's not going to have any kind of an odor to impart. Another thing I want to point out, and why I like a soft flame, is that I'm big on dual uses. So for me, this is great because I can light cigars and I can light my pipe. So if I have a pipe, I can draw this into the pipe. So that's cool to me because it's dual use. So I always like that feature of anything. The other side is, if you notice, the flame is orange, right? If you notice a torch lighter, it's blue. Okay, that has a lot to do with how much heat there is. This is a much cooler flame than a torch lighter. So that's one of the advantages of it, that you're not torching the end of that cigar so quickly and so incredibly hot that you could get like a burnt flavor pulling through your cigar. And we'll talk about what to do to kind of avoid that with the torch lighter, but that's definitely one of the advantages of using a soft flame lighter, is you can get a cooler light. So that brings us to the most commonly carried lighter there is. It's a torch lighter. This is an Icon. It's kind of cool and it's electric. You don't need anything this fancy. You can just go get a $9 torch lighter from a gas station and be just fine. I do happen to like, though, you'll notice in the bottom, there's different types of configurations. This is a triple nozzle with the 3 nozzles in line with each other. I like that because it makes kind of a wider flame. But you can get these singles, doubles, a triple, either in line or like a diamond or a triangle shape, or the quads are typically like on a dice, 4 in a square. I really like the triple and in line. But again, the one thing to notice about these is that the flame is blue, and that's indicating it's a much hotter flame. So you've got to really be careful when you're lighting your cigar. So here's kind of a tip. When you hold this to your cigar, if you hold it right where the end of the flame is, that's the hottest part of the flame. So what I do is I take the distance of that flame and I double it. Okay, so I add another, let's say if it's coming out an inch, I add another inch. So now I'm still going to get plenty of heat to light my cigar, but it's not going to torch the end of it like so fast and so hot, so you're not ending up getting that kind of nasty flavor pulled into your cigar. Because remember, whatever goes through this cigar, this whole thing becomes like a filter. So it's all going in there, whether it's sulfur, whether it's Zippo fluid, whether it's the burning the end of your cigar so that it torches right through there and gives you like a bitter flavor. That's kind of what we're just trying to avoid in general. So, but the other big advantage really to these is the kind of all weather application. Wind doesn't even matter, breeze doesn't matter at all. Indoors, outdoors, no big deal. Even one time I was in Utah, it was in the 20s and it was snowing and it was like 45-degree wind going, it was crazy. And we were on top of these apartments with this beautiful view and on top of the roof on this big patio area. And we wanted to smoke a cigar. This was just happening. So we had gloves on, knit caps, the whole bit. No other method would have worked but a torch to get those cigars to light in that kind of adverse weather. So these really are kind of the king when it comes down to it. So if I, like I said, if I'm a novice and I don't have anything in my arsenal yet, just get a torch, entertain the other ones later. But this is going to be your go-to. And again, if you're going to bring a soft flame or matches, just throw this in your go bag anyway. That way you have it so that, if all else fails, you've got this on hand. So that brings us to the cigar. What do we do with the cigar? Well, first let's look at the cigar. Here's the body. This end part where we cut it, which contains the cap, which keeps the outer wrapper from unrolling or unraveling on us. This is the foot. Okay, this is what we're focused on today, is the foot of the cigar where you light it. Now this one is like a standard cigar, standard Robusto. It's like a 5-inch 52 gauge. And if you notice, this is already open, this foot area. Not all cigars are like that. Sometimes they leave extra tobacco curled up at the end here. And so in that case, you would just use that to light your cigar. You wouldn't do what we're going to do called toasting the foot. Other types of cigars are shaped like a bellicoso. It's like a torpedo at the end. It comes up, gets fatter, and then drops off to like a little nub. So in the end, it sort of looks like both ends are closed. And I've literally watched people turn the cigar back and forth like I'm not sure which end to cut or light. So a little trick on that is just pretty much wherever the band of the cigar is closest to the end, that's where you cut. The opposite end is where you're going to light, even though it looks like it's a closed cigar. So anyway, so let's talk about what we're going to do. We're going to take our V cutter, or whatever cutter you like, cut it. I'm going to always do a test draw. That's good. It's funny because these are kind of cheap cigars. I got a bunch from an event, and some of these are tighter than heck, and you almost have to use a reamer to get these things open. This one happens to be pretty good, which is good. So I always do a test draw. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to toast the foot. Why do we do that? The key to a good light is kind of setting the tone of that light from the beginning. Like, how good are you going to start that burn? So what you don't want, you want a burn that's like straight down. You don't want a burn that ends up kind of turning and gets kind of wonky, or tunnels, or gets to where you end up having to touch up the outside of your cigar. You're trying as hard as you can just to get a really clean, straight burn from the very beginning. So that kind of sets the tone. The best way to do that, and this is back to the Boy Scout days, is we used to take pieces of cotton cloth and put it into a tin and set that near a fire. And that would turn that cotton cloth into pure black, and it would be called char cloth. That way, when you use a striker and you use a flint and you spark it, it just immediately ignites. It makes it very flammable. That's sort of what we're doing at the end of the cigar here, is we're making this very flammable and a nice even burn. So we're going to take this brown tobacco and just try to make the whole thing black. Okay, so if it's all uniformly colored from that char layer, then when we go to light the cigar, it's going to make a nice even start to our burn. So let's go ahead and do that. And now remember, the trick is going to be holding it double the length away from the end of your flame, so you don't overdo it. You should see a little bit of smoke, but not lighting it. This is just toasting the foot, is what we call it. So I also tend to do a little motion with my lighter, and I tend to kind of roll the cigar, because you want to keep it moving. You don't just want to hot spot one area. You're trying to get this thing very uniform. Okay, so let's do that. And so see, I'll wave this around a little bit. I'll turn the cigar a little bit. I'm trying not to burn it too much. I'm just trying to get it toasted. And if I don't keep turning it stuff, it's going to end up toasting too strong in one spot. Okay, there you go. That's pretty good. So it's hard to see maybe, but that is all uniformly one color. It's no longer brown. You can see that it's clearly been charred a little bit. Maybe get that little bottom part, so you can always touch it up. There you go. So now I've got a good char on the bottom. So now we're ready to light it. So we're going to sort of do the exact same thing we just did. Double the distance, moving things around, rotating the cigar a little bit, and that's how you're going to get a really nice even light. So what I'll usually do is I'll get that initial puff, do a couple more, then I'll take it and I'll physically look at my cigar and think, okay, did I get it all lit? Am I happy with that light? Because you can easily do a touch-up light, which would be the best time to do is now. Okay, I think I'm good. So since we're talking about not imparting negative flavors into your cigar, there is a group of people that do a thing called purging your cigar after you light it. This is something you can or can't do, or can do if you want. You don't have to, but I'll tell you about it anyway, just so you have it in your bag of tricks. A lot of people believe that when you first light that cigar, it kind of can create a nasty flavor because it's the initial combustion of that cigar. So what they'll do is after they light their cigar, they'll literally just blow through the cigar and watch a big puff of smoke's going to come out. Okay, that's what they consider purging your cigar. And a lot of people believe that by doing that, it will, again, get out some of that initial smoke from the initial light that could be a little bit bitter. And that's kind of it. There you go. See? I've got a nice even light. Trying to get it so you can see it. So you can see it's all kind of even around. And that's kind of what I'm just going to watch for as I smoke it. And if it starts getting a little weird on me, I'm going to just take my lighter and I'll easily just go and I'll just touch up the corner where maybe it's still up a little higher than the rest. And you can keep adjusting your burn throughout the whole smoke. So don't be afraid that you can do that, and it's okay to do that. But after that, just smoke. And hit it nice and even. I mean, kind of the rule of thumb is, so it doesn't go out, hit your cigar maybe once every 45 seconds to a minute. If you just want to keep that nice even burn going, you'll see those puff light effects. It's kind of funny, most people don't know this, but when you see kind of that darker area or the lighter areas, you can almost see every time that you've puffed on the cigar, you'll see those stripes in it. It's kind of interesting. anyway, that's it. That's lighting a cigar. Again, simple thing once you get it down, but I just wanted to make sure you had your full arsenal of information ahead of time so you can make a good decision on how you want to do this. And a little extra tip I'll tell you is that there are also people that will really religiously light their cigars with a very thin piece of Spanish cedar. So they'll literally light the Spanish cedar, then they'll use that burning cedar to light their cigars. So that's always another fun thing you can try too and see if it makes a difference for you. A lot of people feel that that will impart that cedar flavor that we're also kind of imparting when we keep them in a cedar light humidor. So that's another thing you can always try just for fun, see if it makes a difference for you. So anyway, the next video in the series we're going to do is going to be how to properly smoke your cigar, because again, as simple as the thing it is, it seems like there is still tips and tricks on how to do it the best way. And then after that, we're going to get into selecting a cigar as a new cigar smoker. Because I really wanted to do the cutting, lighting, and smoking prior to that, because I wanted you to be more prepared for a situation where someone might say, hey, we're at this event, would you like to try a cigar? Now you already know what to do with it if someone hands you a cigar. We'll get into picking a cigar on your own afterwards, but I really thought it was important to get the three main parts out of the way, because that's going to cover you in any situation you're in. So watch out for the next one, smoking, and then the one after that's going to be on selecting a cigar from a cigar shop or an online retailer. So anyway, Eric at SoCal Cigars, I hope you have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you on the next video. Take it easy.